What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant today, we're going to go through the update notes, the patch notes for Season 3. That's the First Descendant update 1.3.0, which as of the recording of this video is currently being updated in the game. The game is down at the moment. So these patch notes are quite a doozy. I'm going to put some timestamps obviously in the video if there's specific sections that you're looking for. But let's go ahead and jump into this. Like I said, it's quite a bit of stuff that we need to go through. So we better get started. So starting us off, first and foremost, probably the main drawing point of Season 3 is the new activity, the new battlefield called Axion Plains. This is an entire new open world area where you have several missions and stuff that you can do in here. There's a world boss that can be fought with 7 other players. And this is a hard mode activity, so there is no normal difficulty for this, like for example what you get with Sigma is only hard, and there's a little bit of stuff that you have to do to essentially get this to open up for you. So if you've been playing the game for a while, this activity is available for you probably immediately as soon as you log in. However, if you're a new player or someone that has just recently gotten into hard difficulty, there's essentially 2 parts which need to be done. You need to have done a specific quest in the fortress zone, which is part of the main quest, which is kind of like a reconnaissance mission of the new Axion Plains. And then you also have to have your account having reached mastery rank 15. And you also, there's a Sigma sector main quest, which basically lets you do Sigma sector. That needs to be done as well. So if you haven't completed any of the, well, all of these things, then Axion Plains is not going to be selectable for you. And you just need to make sure that you've essentially done that. Now, this area also brings in a new faction, Legion of Breach. They have several different, different creatures and enemies and stuff underneath them. In this open area, there are different kinds of missions. Guys, I'm not going to read through these mission types and everything like that. Suffice it to say, these missions are not going to be something that'll blow your hair back. If you've played the game before, it's a mixture of the same stuff. Hold out an area, kill 200 of 200 enemies, protect a certain thing, destroy a certain other thing, that sort of stuff. So it's pretty much a lot of the same things that we've already seen before. Now, the developer was not joking when they said that this activity is a very lucrative activity to do, because there's essentially a massive amount of different kinds of loot that you can get from this activity. The new Descendant, you get their blueprints. So Nell's blueprints come from this activity. The new ultimate weapon, the scout rifle eraser, comes from here. And the 2 vehicles which you can craft, the Orca and the Vortex, also come from here. Furthermore, trigger modules, which we're going to talk about in the next section, also come from here. And then last but not least, there's an insane amount of other fucking stuff that you can also just get in this, obviously at different levels of, percentage chance of dropping, but basically blueprints for weapons, blueprints for descendants, and just pretty much like a whole bunch of, crafting materials and stuff like that that you might need. So overall, this is going to be a really good activity to grind at the very least until you have all of those things, like all the vehicles, you have Nell, you have the fucking new ultimate weapon. And then even then, if you're trying to get multiple copies of the other weapons, this is going to be a good supplementary thing for you to do alongside all the other stuff that you usually do to kind of like get those blueprints and everything in any case. So super good. And basically they just explain everything here. There is just dimensional energy stabilization, which is like an activity that everybody essentially contributes to. So as you complete activities inside this zone, and this is calculated weekly, this section just explains that. So this is calculated weekly, and then essentially what you do is you get rewards in your email, in your email box, in your mailbox, based on your contribution to this activity. So overall, it's essentially something that crowdsources, like, people, all partaking in this. Essentially, I believe it's when you look at the Wall Crasher or the Wall Crashers arena, you'll be able to see the dimensional energy stabilization progress for the period, and you can basically see how far you've got along to that. I'm a little bit conflicted now, because I was under the impression that this is weekly. However, now here it says daily, which is okay. That's insane. It could be that I'm slightly misunderstanding this, but if it's daily, then even better. That's just more, like rewards over time in any case. Because as you can see, it's actually not bad. You get like 1 trigger module loot, 1 weapon augmentation box, 1 external component augmentation box, and 60 treated alloys, insulating nuts, alloy bearings, and high conductivity wires, which are essentially, crafting materials that you use to research. So if this is daily, even fucking better, but all good. Next, we also need to just talk about Wall Crasher. So Wall Crasher is the new 8-player, Titan fucking boss that you can fight with other players. This dude spawns every hour on the hour, and basically you then, if you are there at the time of him spawning, then he arrives and crashes into the ground like a Wall Crasher, and you can essentially then team up with 7 other players to take him down. And if you are not there when it happens, then other players who are currently in the fight and do not have a full fucking team can actually invite you in as well. That's pretty much it. He gives a decent amount of rewards as well, as you can see here. And so the point here being that this is essentially, I would say, a group activity that you can, farm a couple of times a day, every hour on the hour. So if you're playing like 2 or 3 hours or something like that, you can get like 3 attempts at this. It's not going to be that difficult in my opinion. It's more like a test to see whether you can stand outside the fire when there's fire on the fucking ground, and whether you can optimize your DPS and just deal obviously more damage. The stronger the team composition, the more damage you deal, the faster you'll be able to kill him. I mean, I think that goes without saying. It's kind of like makes me feel stupid just even saying that. But yeah, the point is that it's also in a way a DPS check. So if your team does not have enough damage, then you're simply not going to be able to make it. And that's it. Also, it says that when the field cursor's precursor animation starts, 2 colossi, so 2 other roaming colossi are like fucking spawned that basically walk around Axion Plains. Now these remain summoned for 8 minutes and disappear when they're defeated or when the Wall Crasher appears after 8 minutes. So basically 8 minutes before the Wall Crasher arrives. So 8 minutes before the hour closes, right? These dudes walk around and they can also be killed, and they also drop some pretty damn good rewards. Now I got a chance to go up against these. I was solo though, but go up against these in the pre-event that we played, and they're pretty fucking spicy. So so definitely bring some friends. But this is really cool. It's something that the community's been asking for a super long time. Albeit it's like in this sort of like limited arena now, but the point is we've wanted roaming fucking world bosses for a long time. This is a step in that direction. It's still not completely there, I would say, because it's engined on all these activities and all that stuff, and it's only in one zone in the game. But it's a very good starting point for us. And yes, these also drop some decent rewards and things like that, and again some additional chances at Descendant blueprints, weapon blueprints, and so on and so forth. Even crystallization catalysts are available at like a very low chance. All right, so I think that's basically it. There's a couple of other things here. I'm trying to not make this video like fucking 50 minutes long, so there's a couple of other things that they mention here. I think here's the dimensional breach where they mention here's where the weekly reset is. Okay, cool. And this is your contribution for the week is then calculated, and then there's rankings for whoever contributed the most to this breach stabilization. So basically think of it as whoever contributed the most to the activity, right? For the week, you have rankings for this. This gets reset every 4 weeks, and there's also some rewards that essentially come off of that. So bear in mind, though, that these effects, right, which are unlocked when the dimensional breach level is attained, when you actually fulfill it, are rewards that are available for all Descendants. So these are cool things like increased rewards, research time decreases, which is really good, and unique arc factor XP increases as well. So these are, as you can see, they go from 2 to 15. So as you have more of this dimensional breach level, the effect gets more profound, gets better. And so this is a good way to essentially for the community to work together to do something that benefits everybody in the community. I really like this. I think this is an awesome system. I really do. And it absolutely incentivizes players to work together towards a common goal, which everybody benefits from. So huge fucking fan of that. They also do mention 2 other things. There's a sort of like bike race, hover bike race thing, which you can also complete for rewards. I believe there's 6 of them on the map right now. Maybe they'll add more later or something like that. They mentioned that basically each reward can only be earned once, but it's like a time trial. You have to race. So that's pretty cool. It's like something different to do. Then there's the Axiom drop zone. So there's all the time, there's like stuff falling out of the sky and they fall, and it's basically things that you can loot. And these essentially have the materials that you basically can get from other places in the game, as well as the special materials that you need for some of the research that needs to be done from things from the Axion Plains. So always a good idea to keep your head on a swivel and look around. If you see some enemies gathering around an area and you see some lootable shit, kill them, loot the shit, you'll get some loot for that. and some materials which you can obviously use to, you know, do some research. Alrighty, then I think that's pretty much it. They mentioned the demo is now gone, so obviously because we can play the real fucking thing, so yeah. Okay, next section is Nell, which is the new Descendant, which we get at the beginning of Season 3. They spent some time explaining her skills and everything. If you've played the demo, you've already had a chance to basically check her out. I personally am not a fan of this Descendant, but I'm open. I also did not spend like 50 hours with her or something like that. And I definitely think the build that I was using in the pre-play that we were able to do was definitely not optimized or decent enough. So I will be spending some more time with the Descendant, but it just does also feel like a Descendant that's like you have to do like a lot of stuff to accomplish the same thing that other Descendants do easier. But I've already said this, I digress. Let's move on. Next, we have the trigger module system. So think of this as a further on, how can I say, mutation is maybe the wrong word, but progression system that is very similar to mutant cells, which you use in arc tuning. So trigger modules are basically added to your Descendant, and essentially what they do is they can have very, you know, different strange new effects which haven't been present in the game before. I believe there's 9 trigger modules available now. There's going to be more of these added as the game progresses through Season 3, and obviously further on after that. There are some requirements, however, to you being able to actually equip a trigger module onto your Descendant. So first thing is 10 crystallization catalyst needs to have been used on this Descendant. You have to have used an energy activator. So basically the point is this needs to be a Descendant that you've developed, right? So you've used 10 catalysts, you've used an energy activator, you've taken yourself all the way to 40 out of 40 arc tuning, and then you've researched one of these items, a refined Axiom crystal, which is a new item that's been added to the game with Season 3, which uses materials which can be farmed in Axion Plains. So you've researched one of these bad boys, and then you spend this one thing and the 300,000 Kuiper, and bam, you have the slot open, and now you can start equipping those trigger modules into it. So these trigger modules, right? They mention, I think all 9 are listed here. I don't know if I want to read through all 9. And this is wasted an insane amount of time, and I know that you guys can read probably better than I can, but the bottom line is they do some unique effects, which is stuff that we might not have seen in the game to thus far, and it can be probably quite interesting to see how this essentially changes a Descendant. Now, what's important to know is that these 9 trigger modules are essentially universal, if I can put it that way, meaning like certain Descendants share certain trigger modules. So like, let's say 6 of the Descendants can all use battering ram because that trigger module works with their skills. And then 4 other Descendants can use arc leak. So the point is that not each Descendant has their own 9 trigger modules. These are universal ones, which are essentially shared according to either damage type or element type or type of Descendant or something like that. That's basically it. I will be making a separate video on the trigger modules where I guess I'll be ranking them and which ones I think are ones you should be prioritizing, and I'll be trying to drop that video as soon as possible, hopefully by latest tomorrow, something like that. All right, next up we have the vehicle. So the hover bikes is a big new addition, something that we will be able to use in Season 3. The Axion Plains is a massive open world area, so having an additional way that you can cross this area super fast is very, very beneficial, and that's where the hover bikes come in. Now, the first one, the Glide 4, is something that everybody can just get right off the rip by completing a quest. You will get the blueprint, or I don't know if you get the actual, I mean, we just had the bike in the fucking pre-game, but I don't know if you get the blueprint for it and then you still have to research it, or if you just get the bike. The impression I get is that you just get the fucking bike. And then there's 2 other bikes, the Orca and the Vortex, which you can research. Now, these can be leveled up just like you can level up your fallow, your dog, right? And I believe it also goes from 1 to 30, and obviously that increases the specs and stuff of it. So I believe it's like it's like things like the speed of the bike and the durability and that sort of thing. So I believe the idea here being that the Glide 4 is like the middle ground in terms of speed and survivability. I believe the Orca is a little bit more survivable, a little bit more, I don't know, tanky, if you want to call it that way. And then, of course, the Vortex would be your speed bike, and possibly the one that you might need to do some of those speed trials and actually get the highest level rewards for them. So There are materials that they'll need to essentially, and you can see the enhancement level goes, okay, so it goes all the way. Additional options are granted at enhancement level 2. Okay, so it only goes to 10. So scratch what I said before. It doesn't go to 30 like our fallow, only goes to 10. But there's the materials and shit that you'd have to spend to actually just upgrade it. And of course, these materials come from Axion Plains. So you'll have to be doing that activity to essentially be able to upgrade your bike all the way. Next up, we get 2 new ultimate weapons. One comes in the battle pass, the Exterminator. That is the launcher, the fucking barrel launcher that you can essentially shoot multiple rockets at multiple enemies. So that comes from the battle pass. And then we have the Eraser Scout Rifle, which comes from Axion Plains. So you'll be able to get the blueprints from there and then essentially do that. Both of these weapons are exceptionally good in Axion Plains. It's not to say that this is the only activity where they are decent, but both of these are very good in this activity, and you'll basically pretty much enjoy using them there. Then also we get some new external components. These external components, there's 3 new sets. They all come from the wall crashes, so you'll have to be doing that activity to get these to drop. These 3 sets are the Ballistic Tracker, the Dimension Destroyer, and Circulation. Ballistic Tracker is essentially a set that focuses on weak point damage. This is a very interesting one. I toyed around with this a lot while I had pre-access. I really liked it. I do want to do some more testing and everything with it, but weak point damage with this is really good. Then we have the Dimension Destroyer, which is essentially a set that is kind of like made for the wall crasher fight in a way, because its 4 set bonus actually interacts with this. And then Circulation set is basically like I guess you could call it a support set. So this is all about like outgoing shield recovery modifier, HPL modifier, and skill cost. So essentially this is like basically a support or survivability set. So you can look at these as saying like you have one DPS, we have one new DPS set, we have one which is boss specific in a way, and then we have like a kind of like a support set. So those are the 3 that are coming in. Next up, yes, we do have the rework of some of the Descendants going live with season 3. First one up is Jaber. Jaber is certainly the most interesting one because this is the one that I most recently did a video on, and some of the things which I said that I wish that they would change with Jaber is actually the things that they changed with Jaber, so that's kind of crazy. They changed the functionality with the assault turret and the medical turret, meaning that when you use the skills now, you don't have the blueprint anymore, and then you place it, you instantly place it. So super fucking good quality of life change right there. Massive fan. Let's fucking go. The next thing is Jaber can now summon up to 3 turrets. Now this is a total of assault turrets and medical turrets, and no more turrets can be summoned beyond this point. That means that you can go 3 assault turrets, or 1 assault turret and 2 medical, or 3 fucking medical, or 3 medical. Your mixture, your choice. You can basically have up to 3 at once. These turrets have also had their damage range increased by 3 meters, which is not a lot, but hey, I'll take it. Their damage has also been increased. And then also you'll see that there are some changes to other skills as well, like Overhaul, which basically gives you like a movement speed increase. And then also saying here that increase the damage of Jaber's assault turret and the AoE damage of turret zone. And you can see again here. So all in all, what they've done is they've boosted the damage levels again. But the major difference here is the instant placement functionality and the fact that you can now have 3 turrets in total. So 3 assault turrets. Now you guys might be wondering, okay, cool. What about the fact that Jaber actually had a module called Attacking Compulsion, which made it so that you could put down 2 assault turrets, and he had one called Medical Compulsion, which meant that you could put down 2 medical turrets. Well, they've actually decided to scrap those 2 fucking Transcendent modules. So if you have them equipped, you can unequip them and fucking delete them or whatever the fuck. You get the full gold and Kuiper value back for dismantling them. But the bottom line is these 2 modules are now gone because Jaber by default can now have a mixture of 3 turrets, medical or assault. They do mention that along with these changes to Jaber's mechanics, they'll continue to bring new skill modules in the future. My assumption is when we see Ultimate Jaber in future, there will be Transcendent modules, which essentially maybe bring back the functionality of those other 2, maybe increasing his 3 turrets to like 4 turrets or 5 turrets. I don't know. I don't think it'll go that way, but nonetheless. So yeah, big changes for Jaber. Interested to jump in and try it out. An additional turret bring us up to a total of 3 seems interesting. I would have liked the range to be even a little bit more, and I would have liked a kind of like a way that we could use one of his buttons to instantly move turrets from one area to another or whatever. but you know, I'll take what I can get, and of course we'll be testing that. I'll bring a video about that to the channel. Viessa is also getting damage buffs across the board, so they do mention all of the different mods, Cold Cohesion, Glacial Cloud, all of that shit. But basically all of this just reads that she's being massively buffed. So I mean, massively is maybe kind of like a little bit of an ambitious word, but yes, decent damage increases here. I think Viessa was already kind of fucking saucy, so anybody who is a Viessa main or something like that will be very happy about this news, because their Descendant is now dealing even more damage. Next up, Izumo is also getting more damage boosts. And dude, people sleep on Izumo. Izumo deals a fuckload of damage, and he now deals even more damage. So most of his mines and stuff like that have had their range increased, as well as their explosive damage increased. So just pretty huge. Then Sharon also got a one change basically to area suppression, where the damage was taken up, as well as the range very slightly, so from 0.9 meters to 1.1 meters. So this is specifically a module, area suppression, and this is just, yeah, it's a slight tweak to it. I don't think there's anything here to blow our hair back. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with Sharon right now. She's underperforms a little bit compared to some of the other Descendants in certain areas, but she's certainly very, very playable. So yeah, this is just a little bit of, you know, cream on top. Valby is also having received some changes to essentially to some of her modules. So water play has had its damage interval made, so now instead of damage ticking once every second, it ticks twice every second, but then the cooldown is slightly increased from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. And then hydro pressure bomb has had its damage significantly increased, basically almost double. And then tidal wave also has its damage slightly increased. Well, not slightly, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's almost like fucking, I don't know, like 40% or something. And then also explosive damage also increased. So again, just damage buffs to Valby. I think Valby is super fucking powerful, so yeah, pretty damn sick. Last Descendant that they also worked on was Keelan. Keelan has also had his damage increased. Keelan is another one of those Descendants. I know I myself have slept on this Descendant. He is super fast if you build him correctly, and he deals a decent amount of damage. I think people who see themselves as Keelan mains are going to be very happy about these changes, because again, we just see damage buffs across the board, and basically he's going to be able to clear even faster now. Not that that was already not a problem. Next up is the Inversion Reinforcement board. Just like we saw when we went from Season 1 to Season 2, we have a lot of the nodes on the Inversion board staying the same, but then we have some of the nodes being changed over to seasonal stuff. So for example, the bottom track now has things which interact with the Eraser and, you know, like the new weapons which we get, as well as with Nell. And some other, you know, nodes were changed. They listed all of the nodes which were changed as the previous Season 2 Episode 2 node, and then the new Season 3 Episode 1 node. So it's easy to keep track of what has changed from previous season to now. But likewise, what I promised with the trigger modules, I'll also be bringing a dedicated video out on this to basically look at this. So keep an eye out for that video. Hopefully I can have it out in the next 12 to 24 hours. Then two last things to cover. The Void Abyss boss now that's been added is the Storm Hanger. This is a boss that is modeled after the Hanged Man. So this is an electric attribute Colossi. You have to have reached rank mastery 18 and have completed the most powerful classes. So this is, you know, basic shit that we know for the Abyss boss. Of course, there's the challenge mode as well for this, and this then replaces the previous boss which we had, and this is now the new one for us to essentially tackle. The boss deals electric damage to you, but is weak to toxic. So now we finally have a boss that we can try and use toxic damage against, and I'm excited to try and build some Descendants which have a, let's say, semi-easy time of taking down this boss. So keep an eye out for that. Then to finish off the video, I have a few random little tidbits that I just want to pull your attention to. The first one, a question that I often get, is why the fuck can't we get Voltia? The good news now is that Voltia has been added as a blueprint that can possibly come from ETA. So the weekend vendor can now possibly have Voltia blueprints for you to essentially buy. And also all 4 of the Voltia blueprints have now been added to Deslin with his limited weapon trade shop, which means that you can get your support coins and you can actually obtain this now. The other thing is, we also now have very decent increases to the mission completion XP for a lot of the missions. So infiltration operations, so 400% infiltration, you can see that the mission completion XP has been increased quite significantly. The biggest one here is Slumber Valley, which is now sitting at 365,000 mission completion XP. So actually Mystery's End is the highest one at 395. Oopsie poopsie. And then second highest would be Heart of Fortress, and then third highest would be Slumber Valley. But this is just another thing that can incentivize you to go back and do those activities if you've not been doing 400% infiltrations, because this end of mission completion XP is massive, and it means that you can get huge bumps in your XP of your Descendant as well as your weapon that you're trying to develop. And that's just really good. Even the XP for normal 100% and 250% have been increased as well. So that's just really, really good. Then also you can see that essentially a lot of rewards have been introduced into other areas where you can obtain them from. So Sigma Sector now also gives us Haley shit. If you're still trying to unlock Haley by doing Sigma Sector, you can get the stuff that you need to be able to research her. Likewise, the Void Vessel, that boss also drops like Peacemaker and Frostwatcher pieces now. So if you still have to research those two weapons, you can also do that activity for additional chances at those blueprints. And then you can just see here, there's a fucking massive list of other fucking activities which you can now do for all of these. So just another way, just another supplementary way for you to essentially farm those activities to basically get more chances at those things. And then last but not least, this is something that they spoke about during the I guess the event to show season 3 and everything that's coming, but it is worth just mentioning as well. And that is that when rolling collisions with monsters are now ignored, that's that's really good. But this one here, crystallization catalyst improvement. So now when you reset a character from level 40 to 1 with a catalyst, and usually what it would do is it would take you back to level 1 stats. So this was like a little bit shit, because as you were building a Descendant, every once in a while you'd be like level 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, and go into activity and then realize, holy shit, I've only got like 2,500 HP and I'm getting like one tapped by stuff. So how it works now is once you've reached level 40, your stats will always remain at the level 40. So it doesn't matter how many times you reset with the crystallization catalyst, when you go down to 1, you do go down to 1 in terms of your XP, but your stats remain at the level 40 level, which means that you always have that toughness and you can always survive that. But I think that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of other UI stuff and things like that they mention here, but I think I've pretty much like covered most of everything that needs to be done. We came in just under the 30-minute mark, so I really do apologize. The video was a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but hopefully, again, like I said, if there's specific sections that you're looking at, you can just jump around the video. However, if you made it this far, I want to thank you very much for watching. Enjoy playing season 3 when it fucking drops. Keep an eye on the channel, keep watching. We're going to have plenty of videos coming out detailing all of the new things in season 3, as well as new builds for weapons, Descendants, so on and so forth. I appreciate all the support, and as always, fucking cheers.